What's up, guys? Happy New Year. We're here at the start of 2025. I'm so excited. I do need to still get some camera issues fixed, so we're still doing phone reviews at the moment. However, with that being said, how you doing? I'm so excited to get the new year started because we're going to dive right into some movies this year. We're going to talk about some stuff. We got some new plans going on. I'm working on a short film that I will be talking about throughout the year. But with that being said, that's not what this is about right now. I'm here to say hello and get started on what we're going to talk about for the year in terms of movie reviews, starting with the January tradition of a horror movie. I love a good horror movie, and horror is my favorite genre. I've talked about it before. I'm so excited with this one, though, because this was a really good January hit that I did not expect. Going into this movie, I expected it to just be, I don't know, interesting, but I didn't know what it was about going in. So when I watched The Damned, I was really impressed with how it was able to really affect me on a horrific level in terms of just being a slow burn horror. This movie was really impressive because I found it to be very striking in its imagery, but also just its characters and the way it explored all of that, combining it with great sound design and aspects of the movie that just felt very immersive. That even though there were sometimes characters would get lost in that, I still feel like this was a very effective experience, and it's a great first movie to start off the year because The Damned I found very fascinating. It's directed by Theodore Paulson, and I have some notes here, and it's also written by Jamie Hannigan. And this screenplay is really, really great. I shouldn't say screenplay because I didn't read the script, obviously. I watched the movie, but the movie itself, what it comes across with the writing is that I thought it was presented in a way that was very fascinating because this movie doesn't really fill you in on what all the characters are and exactly where they come from right away. And that's something that kind of unfolds over time. It's about a group of people in this time period where they get stuck in this sort of isolated place. It's a snowy storm and they're not able to get out. So at that point, something else goes down essentially to make them really question their morals, to really question if they're good people or not. And given that a few actions that are taken at the very beginning that really grip you, this movie does a great job in making you question that as well. You're looking at the characters in this movie and thinking, are they good people? Morals, to really question if they're good people or not. And given that a few actions that are taken at the very beginning that really grip you, this movie does a great job in making you question that as well. You're looking at the characters in this movie and thinking, are they good people? Are they someone we should look up to? What's going to happen with this? Are they going to regret it? And that's what this whole movie kind of answers. This movie is really about guilt and what we do and our fear of being punished for sins we may have committed. And I think this movie does a great job at exploring that with its main lead, played greatly by Odessa Young. She's so fantastic in this movie because she really brings a sense of vulnerability, but also a sense of fear among this movie. But you feel like it's a gradual decline in sanity in this film. It really does a good job at showing you how she starts off one way, but by the end of it, you feel like this experience has fully changed her, and this sense of paranoia has fully almost broken her in a sense. So I don't want to give too much away, but I really enjoyed how this movie was all about being in her POV, and I never felt like we were losing that POV. That does end up affecting other characters, and whether or not you feel like they get enough screen time, that is kind of there, but that's not always an issue because I think this movie was intending to stay with her POV the whole time, so I didn't mind that other characters didn't always get as much screen time. I did find myself sometimes forgetting, admittedly, some characters in the process of that because we are juggling a good bit of them, and some of them do feel like they do fall to the wayside, but given that Odessa Young's performance and just her intrigue alone kept me engaged the entire time to where I didn't mind that necessarily. I thought Odessa Young brought a lot of humanity to this role that made her really fascinating because the way she interacts with other people, you can tell she has a lot of sympathy, but she is the one to make harsh decisions in this movie sometimes. And you can tell she doesn't want to do it to be cruel, but she feels like she has to. And you can tell that really weighs down on her guilty conscience. And I thought Odessa Young did such a great job at just conveying that throughout the process. With the story being about guilt, as you're watching this movie unfold, it's really fascinating to see how each of these characters start to unravel around each other because some of them play the blame game, some of them react by being actually a little more healthier about it. Not healthy, but in the sense of this time period, a little more morally kind of sound in that sense before they start kind of losing it more. Again, trying to keep it vague, but I like how some of these characters, they have different reactions to stuff, and it doesn't always feel one note. Sometimes the character will be blaming everyone else and just being kind of a nuisance, causing an issue, but then sometimes they'll also be apologetic. There'll be someone who is like, hey, look, I'm sorry, this is a stressful scenario. Shouldn't have lashed out like that. And I'm glad this movie had moments like that where characters had layers to them. It just made them feel more three-dimensional. And all the performances among the cast and crew are only elevated by the amazing technical aspects of this movie. This movie blew me away with another true star of it, and that is the cinematography and the shots and just the sound. The sound design in this movie is so striking because there's so many moments where I like how this movie plays with your anticipation of jump scares. This movie has them, but what's great about The Damned is that when you're expecting a jump scare, say if you have a moment when you're anticipating a jump scare and you're anticipating this loud sound, sometimes it'll build to that moment, that really big release of tension that you're about to get, and then it'll just kind of keep the scene going. And you think it's going to release the tension, but then it doesn't. And it'll keep that momentum going for a good bit of time to where you're just waiting for the jump scare to happen to make you crave it almost before it even does. And I think that's really clever because instead of just anticipating it and being like, all right, another jump scare, here we go, you're kind of wanting it to happen because the movie's amping you up. You're like, come on, just do it. You've been winding the tension up. Just release it already. And I thought this movie did a great job at playing with you and a lot of great scenes. And that also comes from the movie's use of silence. There's not a lot of music. And I thought this movie did a great job at picking and choosing when to use its music. Use of the soundtrack is really nice because a lot of this movie is sweeping and quiet. A lot of it is ambiance and the environmental noises, the stuff the characters are hearing around them, like the snow crackling, the fire popping, the wood creaking, and that was as much of a star because anytime I was hearing that in the theater with the sound around me, I was kind of getting paranoid too. I was feeling moments with the characters where you're like, oh shit, something might be walking around me right now, and it does a really good job at really relating to that kind of fear that you have as a human being, like when you get home and you're looking around your room and you hear a weird creak or a noise, and you just kind of feel uneasy, so you start looking around. Like that kind of mentality is in this movie a lot, and I thought it was used to great effect to really elevate the paranoia of what these characters are feeling. The Damned is definitely a slow burn horror in every sense of the word, but I thought that was for the better. I like that this movie knew exactly what it was with that, and it didn't feel the need to rush itself. This movie really takes its time and really breathes with scenes and really allows you to settle in with characters, but also just the scene itself and really feeling the environment. I do love the visual language of this movie because at times there is a weird ironic beauty with certain shots where moments will look very beautiful and striking because of like the sun over the snow and the mountains, but also there might be like a tinge of blood in a shot, or there'd be something making it look a little more scarier or a little horrific to really kind of give it that sense of horror as well. Yet it's still a beautifully made shot. It looks almost like you put it in the background of just a great, computer or just a poster of it on your wall. Like it just looks beautiful. So shots are striking and yet they're scary at the same time. And I thought this movie just did a great job at balancing that a lot. I jumbled on this one because I find myself going into territory where I want to spoil the movie, but I don't want to. I really want you to go into this movie blind, not knowing anything like I did, because going in vague is the best way to enjoy this film, because I think the movie really harps on the vagueness of its plot and its themes and really allows you to interpret a lot of things until the movie starts to feel like it doesn't. And I do wonder if the final few moments of this movie are what they actually are, or if it's leaving you up to interpretation. But that's what I like about the ending as well, is that without spoiling it, I think this movie will be one of those movies where when it ends, it really works for you or it really doesn't. But I personally like that the ending kept me thinking, and it's a movie it's going to be in my mind throughout the year. I really like The Damned. I thought it was a great start to 2025. This movie was very inventive horror. It was very good slow burn horror, and I do think sometimes the ending, I'll give it some time to think about, but overall, I really like this movie. I thought it was a great start to 2025. What did you guys think of The Damned? Did you enjoy it? Was it a very effective horror movie for you? Thank you so much for watching Scatterbrain Reviews. Can't wait to give more movie reviews out to you guys throughout the year. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time.